Welcome to Face the Analyst. I am your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me an old friend and acquaintance in this industry many years ago, Larry Reaugh. He is the president and CEO of American Manganese Inc. It trades on the Toronto Exchange under the symbol AMY. There's currently about 68 million shares outstanding, trading at about 39 cents a share, giving it a market cap of around $23 or $24 million. Welcome, Larry, to Face the Analyst.
Glad to be here, Jay.
Really nice to see you again. We go back a long way. You had a company called Reaugh many years ago that I recommended to my subscribers, and we did very well with it. So, you know, we like to go back to people who have a good track record, who make us money. So it's a pleasure to be sitting opposite you here to ask you some questions about American Manganese. You know, I'm pretty much a gold bug, but I have to look at some other things, especially when there's projects that are very compelling. And from what I know, it looks like your manganese project in Arizona looks to be very, very attractive. So I want to ask you a few questions about it. Well, that project is called the Artillery Peak Project, I believe, in Arizona. Could you just tell us a little bit about it? Do you have a resource there now? And what grade and how much metal is in the ground?
Okay, we do have a resource there, Jay. We picked up the property in 2007. It's located in Mojave County, Arizona. It's within about an hour and a half of Kingman, which is a major center for mining. And resource is sitting with an inferred or indicated 43101 indicated resource of 6.7 billion, that's with a B, pounds of manganese, and 8.9 billion pounds of inferred. That's in a resource of about 200 million tons, grading about 3.5% manganese. Now, interestingly, we have taken that resource and we've done a PIA, which is really a 43101 preliminary economic evaluation, and we've done put the numbers together on the capital costs and what we'd expect our costs to be to produce the metal. And our costs are around 44 cents a pound. The capital is $90 million at a base case of $1.10 a pound for manganese. Payback is 1.7 years. Manganese is currently trading in the U.S. at $1.80 a pound. So you can see that's going to half the payback. And it makes us half the cost, less than half the cost of the nearest cheaper producers in China. And China, as you know, controls 97.5% of all the world's supply of electrolytic manganese.
So the Chinese, I understand, are imposing import or export tariffs. They're at least trying to discourage the export of manganese and other metals as well, I guess. Is that right?
They have a 20% export duty on manganese, and of course we know that they're running out of ore. They have a carbonate ore in the country. It's a low grade. It's higher than ours, but their cost of getting it out, because they have to calcine, is quite a bit higher. And I'm sorry, I made a mistake. They don't have to calcine, but they have to use a lot of sulfurous acid, and their recoveries are low. And their cost is around $1 a pound before the export duty of 20 cents. The only other producer in the world is South Africa, and that's with the Manganese Metal Company. And they produce about 28,000 tons a year, and their cost is around $1.10 a pound. And as we know, power costs are going up in China, and power costs are going up in South Africa, and that's the major cost component of producing electrolytic manganese.
So when do you expect that you can get this project into production?
Our timeline is out to early 2014 to put it into production. Timeline we're on now is the pre-feasibility work has to be done. That contract was awarded to Reaugh Engineering. They're currently working on the pre-feasibility. We had a much larger pilot test on our process, and I have to tell you, this process is a green process. It's energy efficient and water efficient. We have a dry tailings at the end of it, so there's no tailings ponds. All the testing we've done on the dry tailings has shown it to be benign. It can be backhauled to the pit and laid down. We can be reclaiming as we're mining. And so that's a tremendous cost savings. And we have no crushing, no secondary crushing, no grinding, and no flotation. This is strictly a sulfurous leach process that was developed by the U.S. Bureau of Mines in the 1940s. They operated mines using sulfurous acid leaching. And I do believe there's a couple copper mines working with that today. So it's not a real new technology. The new technology comes in, but it's off-the-shelf technology. It's combining a bunch of known technologies on how we treat the material after it's leached in order to get it into a situation where we can either produce electrolytic manganese metal or EMD, electrolytic manganese dioxide, which is used totally in the battery industry.
What are we talking about, the end market for that product?
Well, I think that's a growing market,
Yeah.
and they're finding that the most inexpensive, and excuse me, I've got a cold, the most inexpensive combination is the lithium manganese battery, and they have to use electrolytic manganese metal to do that.
Let me ask you, the CapEx is around 90 million, you said. The preliminary economic assessment says it's around 90 million. How do you expect that American Manganese will finance that?
Well, we just completed a financing close to $4 million. That'll get us right through another drilling stage and the feasibility and the pilot plant testing, final feasibility and the permitting, and more pilot plant testing will probably cost us in the neighborhood of about $12 million. We'll raise that internally. The 90 million could come through a strategic partnership, sell off 25% of the mine for a substantial amount of money, and then they come in and help us arrange the financing. But you know, if you read my newsletters, you'll see that I'm against debt if I can get away from it. In this particular case, I see very little risk in a debt financing. And I think we'd probably do the majority of the financing for the facility
with
on a debt instrument.
So you could have agreements, and that is companies maybe in China or elsewhere or in the U.S. that might need this metal for steel products.
Certainly, we could sell 60 to 70% of our product right in the U.S. And we have companies that have come to us. They're metal companies, are looking for offtake agreements. But you know, we feel we've got a, in the words of John Spencer, who published this in 1991 for the Arizona Geological Survey, the Artillery Manganese District in west central Arizona. The quote from him here is, "The manganese deposits of the Artillery Peak Manganese District are the largest and perhaps only significant group of manganese deposits in the United States." We have that all tied up. And so we feel that we have something here that's of definite value, hasn't been recognized in the market, and that we don't want to give away offtake agreements unless somebody's willing to share some risk with us.
You mentioned that the price of manganese now is around, I think you said $1.80.
Right.
Do you see the potential for that to rise significantly?
I see it breaking through its old highs of about $2.50, which it hit in 2006, 2007. And I think we could see $3, $4 prices on the electrolytic manganese. Remember that China's running out of the ore. South Africa's locked in. They can produce no more because of they just don't have the electricity to do that. It's electricity intensive. And China's looking offshore and making deals offshore to produce offshore. Well, you know that China's costing them $1 in China to make electrolytic manganese. They're not going to get away with $1 offshore. So some of that ore, carbonate ore, if they have sedimentary type ore, 4-valent ore, maybe people can give us a royalty and we'll license our patent to them.
Sure. Well, that's certainly an idea. That would make a lot of sense. Your theme, the theme of American Manganese, is finding metals that are alloys, I guess, or metals that are used in steel production. Is that right?
That's right.
So now you also have a rare earth property. Could you talk to our viewers about that for a minute?
Well, there's a very active belt here in British Columbia of carbonatite that runs for several hundreds of miles, not over 1,000 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's rare earth elements within that carbonatite. There's some well-known projects in there. We have a property that has rare earths, including lanthanum, which is used in the Prius, totally in their battery production in Japan, and neodymium, which is used in those big, strong magnets, and they're really necessary for hybrid cars because some of the casings in that have to have neodymium in them. So those are two of the elements, but our focus, of course, is the manganese project, which we can see cash flowing significantly in a very short period of time when you're talking mining life. And we have optioned the property off to a company called Reaugh. And they're just going through this is going to be their asset that will get them fully listed on the exchange. And they'll be spending $500,000 on the property here in the next year to 2 years.
And what is the arrangement there? How much of the project can they earn?
They can earn a 60% interest.
60% interest by spending that amount of money, or
by spending that amount of money.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so it's not anything. So your real focus is really on the Artillery Peak project in Arizona, and rightfully so, because it looks like a fairly sizable project. If the preliminary economic assessment holds up, certainly would be a very robust economic story.
Yeah, well, of course, the preliminary economic assessment's already identified it as being robust, but the pre-feasibility is what coming
what the
next.
bankers or people are going to want to
Yeah.
see, the investors are going to want to see. It's really it seems like a very compelling story, Larry. Certainly one I'll take a closer look at when I get back into New York and have a few moments to look at it. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our viewers before we conclude our discussion today?
Well, I see this as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about risk, and I put out a letter called The Fundamental View on Metal Markets, and I'm on Kitco with that letter.
Oh, okay.
I have a fairly big following in it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I wrote about was how debt almost killed a lot of companies in 2008. And, but I see this one as being less riskier. If you're talking about, if you want to say, well, what are the risks in this property? I say the risks are that China stops growing,
Yeah.
and suddenly the commodity market falls apart. But even at that, we'd be the cheapest producer of electrolytic manganese.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at all aspects of it. It's the best project I've ever had. It's a world-class deposit, and it's got the most robust economics of any project I've ever had.
Well, that's very interesting, Larry, because you have had some other successes in your career, so it's
Right.
to hear you say that means something, that's for sure. So, well, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking to Face the Analyst.
Well, I
think
appreciate
it's,
the opportunity.
Definitely something we'll want to take a closer look at for my newsletter called J. Taylor's Gold, Energy, and Tech Stocks. I think it fits into the energy component perhaps there.
Right.
And the technology component as well. So I thank you very much, Larry, and all the best to you in 2011,
You bet.
2012.
Thanks,
Take
Jay.
care.
Okay.